video will be a follow-up. I've done one earlier, and I want to expand a little bit on it, but also a direct follow-up from a series I just did in which regarding magic wands, which literally translates into measuring rod or vareed, tools of measure, and weights of measure being one of the keys to understanding ancient mysteries because it's the basis of society now. Thoth, Hermes, or Mercury carry the measuring wands. They're the gods of weights and measures. Now, I've seen some really wacky stuff in regards that the coiled snake has to do with DNA spirals and some just, cringe-worthy stuff. But all cultures, these ancient cultures, all contain in their most powerful, their oldest myths and legends, stories of gods regarding weights and measures who carry the magic wand or the measuring rod, which it literally translates into. Again, some really like wacky stuff like that. Supposedly this is evidence that ancient cultures were splicing DNA and creating hybrids, and that well could be the case. Like I cannot prove that it didn't happen, but it's again, some of the stuff out there which passes as research is just shocking. So the measuring tools, it's just a standard cross cultures, cross times, and again repeated. Books of law are connected to it, directly connected to it. It's a undeniable standard. But so what we have is all these different cultures carrying these same symbols now. Uh, now, what we're looking for, what and other people have been speaking. So if we want to find evidence of there's ancient connections between ancient cultures, one of the first and most important and the most empirical methods to do that is to look for similarities in weights and measures, especially in regards to temples, because their legends are clearly connected. Uh, you know, it's not even really up for debate in regards to that once you have a look through it. But so, for instance, and I'm following this up with more. This is just an update of an older video to update this recent series on the magic wand as a tool of weight and measure, and not some that crazy stuff. So we have across Egypt, and I also did a series on 108 and how 108 feet fits in, but that was a whole lengthy video, so much. So we find it all across Egypt in these very important sites. But you also find it in the Indus Valley civilization, for instance, Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, these very enigmatic, very, very ancient sites, having the same standards of 33 feet as one example. But we can also go, so Bluestonehenge, the stone circle in the middle had a diameter of 33 feet. And also worth noting that the henge was 82 feet wide, because this will fit into as well. So even the Tajin, I think Tajin because it's also in the Americas, we'll find it for instance, 108 feet appearing in so many of the temples. And this is 66 feet, so 2 times 33 feet. There's also some other pyramids, 132 feet, so twice this again. But we see the similar base unit emerging from that, and one of those being 33 feet. Now, while I'm here, what I've done is I've made let's call it a magic wand conversion chart where I have of all these different units of measure: feet, the Doric, Ionic, Samian, the Corinthian / Cremona, the Persian, the Indus, which was also later the Saxon foot, so it was used up until the Middle Ages in Northern Europe, the Royal Babylonian or Sumerian scale, the medieval royal key in great cathedrals. This is essentially 1 meter, so 1 yard on the medieval royal. If I was to put in, okay, so if I put, let's put in 3.2808. So there are 3.2808 feet per meter. There we see have a medieval royal, this ancient, well, not technically ancient, but 1,000 years ago when they're building the great cathedrals in Europe. 1 yard is essentially 1 meter, 3.2808 feet being 1 meter, and there we see 1.0002 medieval royal yards. Here also have the cubit, the royal mile, also called the Egyptian royal mile, the sacred Jewish cubit, which is 5/6 relationship to the Egyptian royal, the canonical cubit, which is 1.728 feet scale, the Minoan, and I have some more to add to these, so this is a work in progress. But most importantly, I also want to focus here on the megalithic yard. And so I have the megalithic scaled to inches, fathom, perch and rods, inches, etc. But the unit, so Alexander Thom was saying the megalithic yard there, but also was used in units of 2.5 and half a megalithic yard. So this would be the one to focus on, but I just want to show how it connects beautifully, harmonically to units of all these other units of measure. And with that, so we had 33 feet. So if we begin with 33 feet, so not only on the scale does it will naturally occur to, so 5, 28, 396, 132, all these lovely, important numbers in Pythagorean thinking. There was a whole bunch of other connections, for instance, on the Corinthian 37.7148. That was in the Parthenon. I showed how that connects to Great Pyramid proportions in places like the Parthenon, Sanchi Stupa across the ancient world as well. But you also notice that both the Saxon or the Indus foot, so the Harappan Mohenjo-Daro foot, 33 equals 30 of those, and that just happens to be exactly the same amount as the Sumerian or the Royal Babylonian feet, Royal Babylonian scale, which is an important reference as well. But so what we have there is, to begin with, we have these connections where ancient units will come to these very harmonic, very beautiful numbers connected even also to Great Pyramid proportions, and we'll look at that in a moment. But first let's go. So 33 feet is one of those, and that's being just some examples. Now I have a few additions as well, so I want to go have a look at some 98 feet. So we have what's the Stonehenge of Brasilia, as it's called, 98 feet diameter. The castle rig stones being one example in the stone circles there in the UK. The Temple of Dendur, 98 feet by 82. This is famous. It was relocated to the Metropolitan Museum in New York. The location of it very special. Highly recommend. Secrets in Hidden in Plain Sight by Scott Onstott, excellent documentary. Now, but it might be pointed out that this temple was actually built during Roman times, so it was not. It's a temple to Isis, built at a very sacred site, but this structure itself dates to Roman times on an older temple site as well. But if we go way back in time, approximately 2800 BC, and even possibly older than that. It's almost aligned to midwinter. It might be actually that this is so old that the precession has started to have an effect, and the variations on. But anyway, it's 98 by 82 feet, and this 82 feet we mentioned already. The Grand Menhir, 98 feet when standing. This is in Carnac. Back over to Peru, this pyramid temple. Now the ceremonial platform, 98 by 82 feet. So this is 98 by 82 feet in Kercado being another example. And we'll find more of those because it's Silbury Hill, 98 feet, the flattened part at the top. Sittingbourne Henge, 98 feet diameter. Stanton Drew, the northeast circle, diameter of 98 feet. Stony Littleton Long Barrow, 98 feet long, exactly half of that, 49 feet wide. 98 feet the length of Ain Dara Temple in Syria, and you also notice that it's on a platform 82 feet high. Trajan's Column, Wasbista Barrow, 98 feet by 89, once again, just like the Stony Littleton Long Barrow. So what we have is, and these are, again, there are more examples, just as a bit of a showcase, just to show that how often this appears and why it's important. So if you put, and I'll put the link to the description to this so you can have a look for yourself rather than rely on some dodgy sources. But what we have is that not only does 98 feet, we'll first begin with the Cremona, or what I'm proposing was actually the Corinthian foot, which would tie in with Doric, Ionic, Samian, and the Greek scales over there. And first we have, for instance, 1008, 252. Now these are all really important, well, in timekeeping and so many other aspects as well. these will all appear, but the most interesting one is so 1.27272727, and that in itself brings us to a one of the proportions of the Great Pyramid. And so, for instance, Great Pyramid 1.2727 in relation height to the half base, and that of course is the proportion of the Earth, and also gives us a phi ratio on the slope there. So here's just another example. I did a whole series on the Parthenon, Sanchi Stupa, and many other places, countless sites across the modern world. They all have these same proportions, but they also have the same numbers built in. So sometimes it's proportion, sometimes it's by the measurement, very often it's both. So that's a selection of 82 feet, now 98 feet. So what else you'll find is that another standard which appears again over and over consistently is 82 feet. So the Arkaim, which is a very important site, possibly one of the older than Mohenjo Daro, so one of these possibly one of the source cultures of what was to become Egypt, Sumer, and the Indus, because we're finding so many places like this in Ukraine and Russia. But back over to, so in Ireland we have the Beltany Circle, 82 feet, 82 feet, the Birkrigg stones, and the inner circle, 29.5. Now that again is very important, but that's not the focus for this one. Bluestonehenge, I already mentioned that, 33 feet in the centre, but 82 feet the henge. We have 82 feet again appearing in Boekednan in Cornwall. So, well, yeah, structure 10, Ness of Brodgar, very, very ancient site, very, again, predating so many places in the UK. It's even thought of to be that this up here in Brodgar was the birthplace of the stone circle makers. But what we have again is 82 feet, and even 65, which could be 66, but again, that half of that is 33, and there is some other older town halls that have been found which are 33 feet as well, which would correspond to that earlier part. And Temple of Dendur, 98 by 82 feet. Luxor, the columns, the obelisk at the front, 82 feet as well. And Ethiopia in Axum, the Fallen Stela, that's one amongst a 108 feet collection, which is just countless places across the world, across time, across cultures. And the second largest, which was relocated to Italy, then brought back, 82 feet. In the Channel Islands as well, we have 82 feet appearing again, and by 49, so double that is 98. So that also double reference to those previous structures. However, the Incas also across the desert, so on the flat land, they had their roads were 82 feet wide. Now, I'd put an asterisk question mark on there because it need a little bit more accurate survey to be sure of that. But again, the Beltany, Kercado, very, very ancient site, 98 by 82 feet once again. And Maeshowe, again, just like with structure 10 in Brodgar, 82 by 65, possibly 66 feet, 2 times 33 again. The Menga Dolmen in Spain, which are aligned to the summer solstice, a passageway 82 feet. Now, even the width of it, again, I wish I had more accurate data in regards to that, because that is, for instance, the Vieira Dolmen, which is only a few hundred feet away, has a diameter of 164 feet, or exactly double of 82 feet. Persepolis, the Grand Hall, 82 by 82 feet. And back to the Moche culture in pyramid in Peru, 98 feet by 82 feet, the ceremonial platform on top. Even the treasury building, famous treasury building in Petra, Corinthian columns, all these other aspects. And what do we have? 82 feet. Once again, also in the stone circle in Bashkiria, the diameter of the stone circle is 82 feet. Egypt, the step pyramid of Saqqara, the shaft itself down to the sarcophagus, 82 feet. And that also, Saqqara, the walls around Saqqara were 33 feet high, the walls of the compound. So the step pyramid being just another example where we have multiple reference to it, so the surrounding walls, and back to Dara, so that was also 98 feet and an 82 feet height platform. Now there are more than a few papers how people have pointed out how Dara is something of a prototype for the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem, the famous temple there by King Hiram of Tyre from Lebanon, a stone's throw away from Baalbek, the master mason, and the Ishtar gate. So I also mentioned Ishtar in the journey of Inanna, aka Ishtar, how she passed through 7 levels, and the first, each of the gates she had to give up a piece of jewelry or clothing. The first item that she gave up was the measuring rod as well. So again, back West Kennet Long Barrow, so 82 feet wide, with 42 feet passage and 328 feet long. And again, there are many other references to 328 feet. So in Avebury, Seahenge, the Seahenge 1 and 2 are built in a circle around a central upturned trunk, and the radius is 328 feet. Find that in so many other places as well, and all back to the Arkaim in Russia there. So what we have is a series of going back to weights and measures and the measuring rod, and I'll try to remember, so I'll put a couple links in the description. Apart from the evidence in regards to symbolism and stories and legends, we literally start to have a connection in the literal measures of the temple plans across time, across cultures, across the world, far beyond than what you could wash away with coincidence. Now, I mentioned 82 feet. So we see on the medieval royal scale, but the important one here is really 27.333, and that's of huge importance in connecting these other sites, because this is just the tip of the iceberg in regards to these sites, because each of those units, both 98 and 82 feet, we can also extend them outwards, because it's like, for instance, West Kennet Long Barrow. So half of 328 feet is 164. So many temples, so many modern sculpture, cathedrals, major public buildings, memorials. And if you halve 164 feet once more, you get 82. And this is one of the patterns. So there seems to be a base unit. This base unit crosses all of these cultures, and not just back to the magic wand and the gods of weights and measure, and that there seems to have been. So this is to do with measurement, and there's a really strong case that they were using. They had a basic original tool which joined them, that there was something, let's call that a sacred measure. But that also will connect to weights as well, and so weights and measures, and which will link us to time via the pendulum. And of course, all these gods, the similarities between their stories, the similarities between the tools that they carry, the emblems that they carry, and this is an empirical way of doing it. And so that, we all have a confirmation bias, but if we stick to have some rigor and evidence, we can challenge the establishment view on these things, which would deny that these cultures had any more than a very slight connection, but that they did not have these similarities. And yeah, and so also trying to combat the growing fashion amongst some to talk about ancient cultures, and well, yeah, putting some really wacky stuff out there. For instance, that this is evidence of a DNA spiral and of hybridization going back. So yeah, so okay, I'll put some links to these. I'll put a link to John Hill from the University of Liverpool. He's it's in a similar way to Alexander Thom. He's gone around and he's been measuring using experimental archaeology to show that there seems to do indeed to have been a base unit upon which stone circle henge makers and these ancient societies, ancient people in Britain were working, but also this would extend to multiple cultures across the world through again countless uh, ancient temples and very important ones. And again, this is a just as an illustration, because you can, if you're interested and you start researching these things and doing it in an empirical disciplined way, you'll start to see that there are indeed some very, very tangible, very profound connections, and the weights and measures thing is just so important to cross-cultural trade. It's literally, it's a language that joins people together. So even if we don't speak the same spoken language, if we're working with the same basic units of measure, we can achieve a level of communication via trade, and that's why it is so important. And so with that, I hope you enjoyed and have a good one. Yep, and please do check out some links in the description.